I'm sorry. That's a fucking lie.
Okay.
You're a liar. Go to hell.
Central Texas is booming, and we're not just talking about Austin.
Just north of Austin, Pflugerville is exploding in population. In May, the city council there awarded a private ambulance company Allegiance another controversial 911 contract, along with a $1.3 million raise, rejecting a more expensive offer from the government-run Pflugerville Fire Department. But was it really worth it?
The way I see it, we have an A team and a B team. I'm not going to rely on the B team to come in and save lives.
The mayor warned it was a huge mistake. An Allegiance paramedic had killed someone. But the council put a price tag on public safety. The big question now, will voters in Pflugerville do it again this November?
It's empathy and inclusion and perspective.
City manager Serena Breland brags about bringing diversity, equity, and inclusion to Pflugerville.
I do like to glance under a table in a meeting and make sure that we have varying shoes under that table.
That's peachy. But when I showed up at City Council the other day, I was worried more about the quality of public safety in that town. You know, life and death stuff. Because after months of asking, Breland fought release of any investigative reports of Allegiance Ambulance, even after one of their paramedics killed John Samarigo and almost killed another guy the week before. John's widow says it's a lack of training. We'll soon know what the city did, if anything, because the Texas Attorney General has just ordered the documents be released.
The person who caused his death did not have the same type of training that the ambulance service from the fire department have.
When the city brought in Allegiance Ambulance, it promised taxpayers it would monitor the company through, quote, a robust set of performance metrics. But we now know the city manager has been allowing Allegiance to routinely violate its contract without any financial consequences. She's also been told of continued questionable medical treatment, documented by the Pflugerville firefighters on the same 911 calls. We read that new contract. It requires monthly reports explaining when response times exceed 8 minutes and what went wrong.
And with this provider, as we've already seen in the past, it can be deadly.
So we asked to see those reports, one of those robust metrics they talked about.
When we asked the city about it, they said we waived that requirement in the contract.
The city waived it without even telling city council. We also thought taxpayers needed to know the problem with the numbers Allegiance has been giving the city. They simply defy belief, like a claimed 13 seconds to get to a cardiac arrest call.
I'd be more than happy for you to tell me that you're going to conduct an investigation into whether or not they're falsifying their response time records, because I think the data suggests they might be.
Breland and the council said nothing. But after we first told you about Lynn Samarigo's horror story a few weeks back, I got an earful on Facebook from this guy, Terry Newsom.
Something y'all probably unfamiliar with. It's a book. It's the Constitution of the United States. I'm going to turn here to the Bill of Rights.
Newsom hates paying taxes, and I don't blame him. The city of Pflugerville has the second highest tax rate in the area. And he doesn't like the Emergency Service District Board that runs the fire department here. ESD members are appointed by the county commissioner, not elected directly by the voters. That's a legislative problem. I don't like unelected boards either, but I can see why public safety may be different. I've watched ESD elections in this state be easily manipulated.
Excuse me, you touch that stuff again, I'm going to file charges for assault.
Cypress Creek EMS took advantage of the horrible voter turnout in ESD elections to install a puppet board that protected corruption there for years. That really cheated taxpayers. Newsom complained, like other vocal residents to us, that the city wouldn't have needed Allegiance if Travis County ESD2 had not stopped providing ambulance service to the city. Quoting, they weren't fired, they quit. Why don't you actually set the record straight, he told me.
Get your lawyers to stop screwing around and get me my records.
I battled corrupt ESDs for a decade. busted crooked fire inspectors who falsified their records so they could drink and hang out in topless bars while on duty. But I've always gone to bat for firefighters when they've been cheated on their pay. And after a head-on car accident in West Texas that almost killed me 7 years ago, I know firsthand that well-trained first responders can literally save your life. And recently, our investigative team caught a Acadian ambulance falsifying their response times in Port Arthur, the same company that Allegiance replaced in that city. Complaints about Allegiance brought us to Pflugerville.
So I'll accept the challenge, Mr. Newsom, but before you say anything, I'm not being paid a penny by the ESD2 to get involved in this firefight in Pflugerville.
I'm Melody Ryan, ready to be your voice on the Pflugerville City Council.
Melody Ryan has been an outspoken critic of ESD2, argued on TV that voters should take their half-a-cent sales tax away from the fire department this November to potentially create the city's own ambulance service.
Our sales tax and property taxes have continued to increase over the last few years.
After a long legal fight over the words on the petition, the Texas Supreme Court ordered the election this fall.
Whether it's at 3 p.m. or 3 a.m., we get out there every day and do our job.
The Pflugerville fire chief warns a yes vote this November would essentially defund his department.
It would essentially remove about 40% of our budget, laying off firefighters, which would mean we would not be able to staff fire trucks. We would have to close at least 3 fire stations.
The domino effect the chief warns, response times could go to 20 minutes, and that could mean a hike of up to 50% in property insurance rates for the very people who now want to take away the fire department's sales tax.
They've had more money than they know what to do with.
There is no doubt the ESD2 has a lot of money in the bank, more than $30 million. Reserves, they say, to borrow money at lower interest rates, to save money for taxpayers, and to be ready for disasters, wildfires, deadly freezes. Under state law, an ESD cannot issue bonds like a city could for new fire stations, like the one that recently opened up on Weiss Road, or to buy new fire trucks. Talk about inflation. In the early days, a fire truck in Pflugerville cost $5,000. Wait till you hear what just one new truck costs today.
So a new fire truck is between $1 million and $1.2 million, and it takes 3 to 4 years to get it now.
A new fire station.
10 to 14 million for a new fire station. And that's assuming maybe you got a discount on the land.
Do you need to spend millions of dollars on a facility, on a truck, right? You worked in rural ambulances. Do they buy $1 million pieces of equipment, $1 million buildings? No, they probably buy used equipment.
When we show up at 3 in the morning, we can't have equipment failures. Things have got to perform.
Long ago, I proved a malfunctioning fire truck in Houston was not able to spray water on a fire. As a result, 2 little kids died.
I don't know about you, but I want the best damn fire truck money can buy.
Do you really want a used fire truck?
Probably not. If it's in working condition and maintainable condition, yeah. You can always find a better way and more economical way with the funds that you have.
Folks who want you to abolish the fire department's sales tax cite a tax vote in 2014 as justification for some of their anger today.
They had claimed that they were going to use that sales tax dollars for ambulance services.
But we look back, the language of that vote didn't say it was for ambulances. It said it was for money to train firefighters to become paramedics so they could treat serious medical conditions while waiting for an ambulance to arrive. Today, 29% of the 240 plus firefighters of ESD2 are trained paramedics. That's what Pflugerville and the surrounding rural areas were paying extra for, not ambulances. I hate to talk history, but it's important here because Pflugerville was used to seeing an ESD ambulance arrive when they called for help, so it's logical to cry foul when they disappeared. But ESDs were created to fund firefighting in rural areas. State law puts a cap on how much they can charge on property taxes, and that's why ESD2 sought sales taxes to help pay for more services. Pflugerville is less than a third of the area of ESD2, but 40% of all the calls for help. And a study 2 years ago by the Perryman Group showed that the ESD was actually providing Pflugerville cheaper fire service than virtually any city-run department in the area, like the city of Georgetown. Similar population, public safety, way more expensive. And back in the day, Travis County commissioners paid Austin EMS to handle ambulance calls in Pflugerville. Half the calls, it turned out, weren't being answered. And then the ESD2 offered to help, bought an ambulance. Right or wrong, they never got the promised funding to do the job. Today, with the help of extra taxes, another ESD provides ambulance services in most of the 77 square miles, but not the city of Pflugerville. Voters rejected an extra sales tax there to keep paying for it. And even Wynn admits a city-run fire department now is not the answer.
Well, it'd be very expensive. And I agree that that should not happen. It should stay within the group that we've already funded and paid for, the facilities and the people that we hired. It should stay with ESD2.
I've never alleged that they are mismanaging funds.
So this fight really boils down to political control. But there's no guarantee the Pflugerville City Council would actually use that sales tax money on public safety if they get their hands on it.
There's a PAC, Pflugerville Resident for Responsible Taxation.
That's the name of the group that's been waging the campaign against the Pflugerville Fire Department. But you learn an awful lot when you look behind the curtain. Who's paying the bill for the $135,000 campaign to get Pflugerville residents to fight against the fire department?
You can look at the filings for it.
We did. And two guys are paying for much of the Vote Yes campaign. Tim Timmerman and his company and family, $42,500, and $80,100 more from Robert Tiemann. None of them returned our calls. But an audio tape details a threat Tiemann made against the ESD if they don't ask the legislature for an elected board.
So that's what just happened when you home.
By the way, all these guys are developers. Timmerman doesn't even live in Pflugerville. This whole thing is being funded by developers, not Joe Six-Pack taxpayer.
So you would have to talk with them about their motivation, about
You never asked
supporting.
them, why are you giving us all this money?
I'm a volunteer. I don't get involved in that.
They could all stand to benefit if Pflugerville uses this extra money to cut deals with them. They could then install ESD board members and dictate where fire stations are located.
There's a councilman who's actually profiting from filing lawsuits. The developers are paying this individual to file lawsuits.
I'm sorry, that's a fucking lie.
Okay.
You're a liar. Go to hell.
Okay.
Pflugerville City Councilman Dave Rogers erupted after filings showed his financial connection to the group funded by the developers. More than $21,000 in labor reimbursement and paid petitioners. And Terry Newsom, he's been reimbursed for Facebook ads and a banner. We hope that sets the record straight, because public safety is expensive. We've all seen what happens when you put a price tag on it. So has Lynn Samarigo, who is facially blind and now alone.
I've lost the person that helps me navigate the world.